Homestead Skills, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about your election that is going on in the U.S. right now. And perhaps you think that a Canadian should have no interest in a U.S. election, but I can say pretty confidently that what happens in the U.S. does affect Canadians in a big way. I mean, all you have to do is look at Keystone or the NAFTA agreement that was changed. I forget what they call it now, but it was been around so long and I'm so old that I know it as NAFTA, the free trade agreement between the U.S. and North America Free Trade Agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. But yes, it does affect Canadians. What happens in the U.S. affects Canadians. It affects many other countries as well. I'm sure that Israel is definitely keeping an eye out on what's happening with your elections, as is Iran and North Korea and South Korea and Japan and Europe. I mean, you name it, everyone has reasons of their own. Every firm, every country has reasons of their own to have an interest in what's going on. And I must admit that definitely your system is different to ours. The U.S. certainly has the ability to change things every 2 years to some degree, which is not necessarily a bad thing. If things aren't going the way the population decides is the correct way, they can have their voices heard. So that is always really important. Whereas in Canada, we don't have that luxury. On the other hand, I do understand that it can be quite tiresome to be inundated with politics ongoing, and it does seem to be ongoing. It seems like just have an election and then you're gearing up for the next one. So yeah, that's completely understood. I would suggest though that it is probably fairly important that you do go out and vote, no matter which side you want to vote for. My recommendation is that you do your research and you decide who the best candidate is. Not the best party, but the best candidate for the job. Because that is the person that will be representing you, your district, your region, your municipality, your school, whatever it is that they're going to represent. They are the individual that will be representing you. The party does not represent you, but the individual does. So it's fairly important that you decide who's got your interests in mind, and hopefully they do. I mean, that is always the question, that politicians are politicians are politicians, and when they get into power, that they really don't pay any attention to the people. But it seems to me that this time around, there seems to be quite the concern over those that either have or have not listened to the general public. So I'm not going to touch on that any further. I'll let that go. Let that happen as it may. Another thing that I would definitely keep in mind is that you avoid the fear-mongering. And it doesn't matter where it's coming from, whether it's coming from one side or the other, or whether it's coming from a news media, whether it's coming from a leader that you respect, whether it's coming from your mother. Avoid fear-mongering. Even on my channel, as much as we do have concerns about possibility of food shortages, the idea of creating fear is something that I do my best to avoid. My attitude has always been be prepared, do what you can to alleviate, keep fear at bay. Don't buy into the fear-mongering. Don't buy into fear, because that will encourage you to make decisions that you may not necessarily make otherwise. So definitely try to ignore the fear-mongering as best you can. I know it can be difficult at times. What is it that you have to consider? Well, that would be up to you. I mean, what is it that affects your life? Is it the school systems that are important? Do you have small children, and is what's going on in the schools a major concern to you? Is the what's going on at the border? Let me tell you, I wish Canadians could cross the border as easily as the folks on the other side do. I know that there are probably quite an influx of Canadians that would seek refugee status if it was that simple, but it's not. So yeah, it's an interesting situation there. One border is treated one way and the other one is treated another. Today, unvaccinated Canadians still cannot cross the border. Unless, of course, somebody turns a blind eye to that and doesn't ask the questions. Now, so, is that important to you? Are the drug issues? I guess you have to consider, are you better off? Are you worse off? Do you think that you'll be better off under if you vote for one individual over another? Is your life going to improve? Is it not going to improve? Is it going to stay the same? I doubt that there'll be any quick changes, but there might be. I have no idea what will happen. It would certainly be nice if energy was opened up. I think that would make a huge difference for everyone. In Canada, we're still paying quite a bit more for gas than what you are in the US, but we've always been accustomed to paying more for it. Probably we're closer in line to what California pays for gas here, and I haven't checked on the ratio lately, but it is in liters as opposed to gallons, so there's a calculation that has to be done, and then there's carbon taxes on top of that, and it's a whole lot of nonsense as far as I'm concerned. It's just tax on tax on tax, and yes, we do have those that are encouraging that those taxes be dropped, especially now with winter coming on and heating oil costs going through the roof. Canada's a cold country. There's no one that can get away here without heating their homes. No one at all. And it's usually oil, natural gas, propane. Very few heat with wood these days. I mean, there are some, but I don't think there's many. So, and electricity, and of course electricity, whew, anyone who heats their home with electricity here is just done for. Anyway, I think I know someone who heats with electricity and they pay more for that every month than they do for the rent for the home. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. So, do you expect things to get better? Do you expect them to get worse? I still don't think that there's going to be any drastic, immediate changes to the individual person's life, but it would be nice if there was. I don't know what changes they can affect on the midterm, but there's lots that can be done. And yes, to date, the leaders of both your country, both the US and Canada, are pretty much in lockstep. They think exactly the same, they act exactly the same. Their policies and their ideologies are the same. So if there's a change there, it will affect us here. So Now I continue to stock up. I continue to bake from scratch, probably more so now than I've ever done in my life. I don't think I have bought a loaf of bread in years, and except Mark bought raisin bread once, and then when he bought that raisin bread loaf, I decided I have to make raisin bread because I know he enjoys it. So yes, we do a lot of our cooking from scratch. Don't buy a lot of junk food, and actually we don't eat a lot of desserts either, so those butter tarts are, they're all sugar. And I have to be very cautious making those too often. Mark loves them, and he will eat, 3 at one sitting. I asked him if he wanted me to make it, and he said he would eat them if I did. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll make them for you. But he asks that I keep that down to like once every 6 months or so. And it's understandable. They are all sugar. Okay, so how is the world going to react to your election tomorrow? Well, it'll be interesting to find out. And the only thing to make sure of tomorrow is, of course, that everyone is safe. If you feel unsafe, don't go alone. Whenever we vote, Mark and I both go together, although there isn't the issue with, even though we're as polarized here in Canada as what you are in the US, we don't have somebody strangling somebody else because they have a different point of view. We don't have, that I'm aware of, somebody sending mysterious white powders to somebody's office. So far, we don't have those kind of incidences. We have had people get booed out of a room, heckled, and had to be removed. And perhaps we're not as verbal about what troubles us here in Canada. Well, perhaps maybe the truckers' convoy was one of the first protests that really brought to light things that have been festering for a long time. And so we're no different than our neighbors to the south in so many ways. The same things affect us all. We all want security for our family and freedom to move around and the ability to work, to have a roof over your head, to be able to survive, economic stability, all those things that should be the norm. Okay, so tomorrow, everyone, do your part. Doesn't matter who you decide to vote for, do your part. You know, they always say that you should be the change that you want to see. Well, that is true, and in civilized countries we do that with a vote. So be the change you want to see, one way or another. All right, this is Tony from her Homestead Skills. Hopefully I haven't ruffled too many feathers talking about politics. I'm sure everyone's fed up with it, but it's going to be an exciting day, and I know I will be watching tomorrow. Anyway, good luck to everyone. Have a great day. Bye for now.